Yeah, hi Francis.
Hi, Colin.
I feel really happy to just to be joining with you today.
Yeah.
there's I feel like there's some deep things. I actually first before I ask you a question, I wanted to share that I can't remember when 2 days ago, I think. I'm just losing track of time, but just recently I woke up and I heard, and it was like I'd been in prayer around uh, this joining that we are going to have, and this amazing thing dropped in. It was like numbers, because I've always, like, when I was a kid, mathematics was always something that, like, numbers was something I loved, and I ended up majoring in maths at university as well, right? So anyway, 48, 49, 50 dropped into my mind, right? And honestly, I knew what that must mean. It was lesson 48, lesson 49, and lesson 50. And I felt so, this like excitement around, oh my God. And so because the other thing I want to say is that I think if I was to, if someone was to say, what has been the predominant feeling that you've experienced in your life up until this point, I would say fear would be the predominant feeling. And lesson 48 says there is nothing to fear. I actually feel really like, just to start things off, this call, lesson 48 happens to be just a really, really short lesson. And I want to read the first paragraph, and I feel like I'll probably just hand over to you then. So just with a comment there about it. So
Sure.
yeah. So lesson 48. There is nothing to fear. The idea for today simply states a fact. It is not a fact to those who believe in illusions, but illusions are not facts. In truth, there is nothing to fear. It is very easy to recognize this, but it is very difficult to recognize it for those who want illusions to be true. So I want to make a comment here before I hand over to you for any thoughts. That one sentence, I mean, it is very easy to recognize that there's nothing to fear, is what he's saying. And I just want to say that I don't really feel that's been my experience up until now. Like, and so I can look to the next sentence and say, but it is very difficult to recognize it for those who want illusions to be true. And perhaps those two ideas invite me to look honestly in my own mind and say, well, yeah, there's still things in this world. I still value things in this world. I still value being liked, for example. I still value money. I still feel this fear around if I, that somehow I think I need money to practically go about my day-to-day life, and like I need a certain amount, this kind of idea. So, and there's probably more in my list, but I feel to stop. I want to hand over and just invite any things, even in those few sentences. I feel like there's something really deep being offered, and I would just invite any ideas that are coming to you around that, Francis.
Yeah. And I think that is a good description of the everyday existence, almost about this life. You know, we feel like this is more consistent experience, and the joy and the peace that we experience seems to be fleeting and seems to be inconsistent. So I feel like that's why A Course in Miracles is such, in and of itself, is such a miracle that can drop into our mind, because it is also just like almost like a life-saving letter or something, saying you can actually hang on to this and practice a shift of thinking. And if you practice the shift of thinking, you will start to see that all the fear are actually a result of your thinking. And there is no outside force or outside circumstance that generate the fear for you, but your own thinking. And it is simple in a way because it's not conflicting in its message. There is only one message, and it's extremely consistent throughout the book. Basically, it's just saying that the fear you experience is due to the thinking in your mind. And if we can really pull our attention back to our thoughts and to our mind, then we can actually trace back to the origin of this fear. And the reason it feels really hard to practice is because somehow we are very easily distracted and feeling that the source of fear or the source of problems are anything but within ourselves, but it's all outside. And that is why the ego is so genius, because it does make it look so, the perceptions, and because it's coming out of a projection mechanism. So everything that you experience inside, it was so quick that you project out. So what I feel is that, those words, there is nothing to fear, it's not strange to us anymore because we have been practicing the Course for so long. But it is truly in that experience, firsthand experience, when we actually practice the mind training so diligently to a point that we see we can revert our thinking in such a way that fear will disappear the moment we revert our thinking. And when we have that experience, we started to claim the power of our own mind. Because the reason we still feel we're at the mercy of the world and at the mercy of the fear is because we still don't claim the power of our own mind. We still feel, I have no power over these things that make me feel fearful, So what you're talking about is, from an experiential point of view, it's our shared experience. We feel like, okay, we live in this world, we need survival for the body, so we need money. That it becomes, that is something we bought into. We bought into, there is a system we have to, the only way we can survive is to buy into this money system, or not even just money, which is a symbol of this reciprocity and giving and receive within this dualistic world. And then we say, okay, I don't want to experience this feeling of lack or this fear of lack. So I want to accumulate more. And yet the fact is, we are so busy accumulating more, hoping to escape this imprisonment. And yet we still keep this thinking in mind, this thinking that there is a lack. And we, then we value good health because we want the body to be mobile, to be problems free. And we're fed up with dealing with problems all day long. So we're so busy trying to solve our problems one after the next, just so that one day we can be free. We can escape this problem thinking. Really, that's what we're trying to do. We can reach a state of mind where there is no problem. But we're busy in trying to solve the problems while maintaining the thought system. And it's the same. It's exactly the same. We're trying to heal the body while still maintaining the thought system that we are this evil, unlovable, separate self, worthless self. And we hold all these thoughts of attack, of judgment in mind. This has never really been looked at. And then at the same time, all the effects are reflected back through the problems in the world, through the lack of money, through the feeling of unworthiness around an identity. And then we just keep trying to solve the problems at the level of form, hoping that one day we can escape. But it's such a trap, because you can never escape that, because the thinking that generated this feeling of lack and this problem thinking, this feeling of smallness, weakness, and sickness has never really been touched. It's never really been touched. So that's why, when Jesus says there is nothing to fear, he is saying this is the truth, and this can be the experience. But in order to experience that, you cannot hope to keep the same kind of thinking and trying to wait until all the problems in your life get solved. And then you become getting the ideal job, getting the ideal relationship, getting all the medications or the health food you get so that the body, you will never reach that day that there will be no problem if you keep the same kind of thinking in mind, because it's going to keep generating problem. That's what the thinking is doing, So that's why it is very simple, because the source is right here, and the source is within our reach, is within our control. But if we choose not to look at it, we choose to look at somewhere else, then you never really change anything.
I feel I'll read. So I've read the first paragraph. I'm gonna read the next two paragraphs, and that's it. This lesson's very short. Today's practice periods will be very short, very simple and very frequent. Merely repeat the idea as often as possible. You can use it with your eyes open at any time and in any situation. It is strongly recommended, however, that you take a minute or so, whenever possible, to close your eyes and repeat the idea slowly to yourself several times. it is particularly important that you use the idea immediately should anything disturb your peace of mind. The presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. The awareness that there is nothing to fear shows that somewhere in your mind, though not necessarily in a place you recognize as yet, you have remembered God and let His strength take the place of your weakness. The instant you are willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. I like that that last sentence. Well, I like all of it, but the last sentence, I feel like you were talking about that idea just before as well, about the instant, this instant, like it's almost like it's irrelevant what may have been happening before that moment, like, oh, I've caught in, or how long I might have thought I was, it's almost like all of it's irrelevant. It's like just the instant you are willing to do this, to do what? Well, to let His strength take the place of my weakness. The instant you're willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. Do you have any more thoughts around this that come to you? Yeah, these ideas.
Well, it's just I feel what he was saying in that lesson is just every moment is brand new moment, and your lack of peace in this moment is never about what happened in the past. It's never about what happens in the future, but it is really about what you're thinking in this very moment. And that becomes very simple. You can change what you're thinking in this moment and thus have a different experience. And that experience is what's going to teach each one of us. In the end, it's not the wording that can convince us, is that this kind of experience, and the experience comes from the willingness to step out of the thinking right now. And I think all the learning and all the things we can experience is just right here, right now. So.
Thank you. Just, I was in prayer before our call started, and I did actually make a couple of notes, and so I do have a question around, just, it feels very practical, actually, very practical, and just something that I'm aware of that I've tended to do quite a lot in my life. And I don't know if I could say it's loosening. I feel like that's probably true, but it definitely hasn't fully released. And I feel like it's around this topic of fear, and it's around this topic of, almost, in my mind, the opposite of being fearful is to be trusting. It's kind of like, so this question has to do with, just say as a scenario, like setting an alarm if I was feeling to rest or something, or going to bed and I have a plane to catch the next day, or I have something that I consider to be just so important, like, oh, if I miss this, like something really terrible is going to happen. I'm going to lose the money I've paid on the flight. You know, I'm not going to be able to meet and have the joinings, etc., that I'm supposed to have. I'm going to be stuck somewhere where I, you know, all these things that, and I've noticed that sometimes even when I buy into that, like if it's a flight, just as this one example, it feels helpful maybe to use this one example. Sometimes I'll actually set 2 alarms because in case I was like, what if that one doesn't get, you know? So it's like, okay. And then, but I've noticed that it's like, okay, sometimes these thoughts come in of like, oh, if I was really trusting, I wouldn't need to set an alarm. I would trust that the spirit is going to wake me when I need to be awoken, you know? So one thing I've noticed in these scenarios, I almost every time that I can remember in the recent past anyway, right? Let's say if I need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I wake up like 4 hours before and wide awake. And I don't know, it's just like I've noticed that I've had this tendency to do this thing of setting alarms, and I can feel that it is a fear. It often feels anyway like a fear-based thing, and yet somewhere I get that there's a way of just allowing or accepting that maybe that's the most gentle thing, especially if I do have a plane to catch, you know, because maybe I'm not going to get any sleep if I don't set an alarm. You know what I mean? Like, so could you share any thoughts around this type of theme, please? Yeah.
You're asking about practicality. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's like the spirit is really practical, and I think, you know, those things that he can nudge us to set a alarm so that we can actually feel relaxed in our mind. So you don't really want to overanalyze too much. Like, what is the motive that I'm doing this? Is this fear or is this a spirit? Actually, you know, sometimes you can get caught up in those kind of analysis. Really, the goal of this course and of our spiritual practice is actually not to increase judgment, but to tap into a deep peace and trusting state of mind. And really, we also have to say that, yeah, we don't really know what trust means. So we have to be taught by the spirit. And I think the spirit would have no problem arranging symbols and situations that we actually can recognize. You know, those logistical things, you know, because we do have many logistics throughout the day that seems, you know, still we need to take care of. But yeah, those are the practicality. I feel like in my experience, I normally just flow with things. I don't overanalyze. Am I doing it out of fear? I just, you know, let it go. And I trust fully that if that is not the direction, I would feel it. I think there's one thing that we just really have, you know, it's not really us, the ego is a doubt thoughts. So it is suspicious of everything, suspicious of who we are, and suspicious of our motives, suspicious of our practice. So I don't really want to go with this kind of doubtful thinking to like, is this second guessing everything? What I feel is that I know the spirit wants to remind us if something is not in the flow of his plan. So in a way, you can trust that you will feel a split. You feel a split, and then, you know, sometimes we'll miss it if we're too busy or we're too invested in a pre-planned direction. we just do not want to hear anything else, then yeah, maybe we deliberately do not want to hear the voice of this still quiet voice. But I would say, really, my experience is that we always can sense this split. If there is a nudge to go the other way, the Spirit makes it pretty obvious. So in a way, we don't have to be too worried that it's all left to us to guess and second guess and make sure that we're doing a good work for the Spirit.
Right. Thank you. I like that. Just that almost just something feels very restful about. It almost feels a little bit like, I think it's that biblical saying, "Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay." Like, so just in regards, just taking again the practical situation of, like, if I was, feeling intuitively that I wanted to set an alarm, then just be, yes, I want to, not allow or buy into the thoughts that want to tell me anything other than just the simple, yeah, I feel to set an alarm, you know what I mean? Like that, this kind of thing. I think what you just said there about not, just watching, or just in a way knowing that, if I'm aware of those thoughts, that's just the ego doing its thing, doing what it does. It's like its job, in a sense, is to try to make me feel bad, to try to make me doubt, to try to make me, and I'll feel that if I believe, but if almost like if I can just notice those things in the background without grabbing them, that feels like it would be helpful.
Yeah, and also another thing is I always like to come back to like what is truly how to say it, like what is truly important to me in a larger scheme of things. I feel like the priority for me is always to know that everything that got sent to me in my awareness, in my everyday experience, that I would give my full devotion to forgiveness, to say yes to the Spirit. And if that is my intention, there are a lot of encounters, there are a lot of collaborations, a lot of experiences with different things, and that is my primary focus. I want to give my whole attention and presence and forgiveness to it, and I trust the rest of the things, the logistic things, just going to take care of itself. It's not something I would overanalyze again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. When those numbers popped in my mind, and I feel like they were a gift from the Spirit for me, and also it feels like they were going to be there. It was almost like this feeling they were going to be helpful, not just talking to you today, but just like it's almost like something I could use practically. 48, 49, 50, like, almost just those numbers would almost help to remind, as a reminder, it was like, I love that. And the other thing which felt really joyful for me around it was, I've just turned the page to number 49, and the lesson is, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And I actually thought of you with this lesson, because I feel like, Francis, I feel like the word that I've heard you say, possibly more than any other word that I've ever heard you utter, is guidance. Like, I don't know, it's almost like I think of you, and I think of your love for sharing and your passion for guidance. And this lesson, I feel, is right a bit around guidance, around, wow, God's voice speaks to me, guides me all through the day. Do you have any comments around that? Just around, maybe around the guidance theme, or even this lesson, or anything? Yeah, before I say anything else.
Yeah, it is a big topic, but it's I think it is a very different way of approaching our living, seemingly still in this world, because we do want to practice the lesson of the course. We don't really just want to intellectually process those concepts and those beliefs, those words. It has to be an experience, for us to truly have a profound shift of mind, shift of thinking. So I feel like guidance is radically different than the egoic way of thinking and the egoic way of living, which is in every single decision that made by the ego, is to reinforce that you are this body that will one day die, and you need to worry about your survival and worry about accumulation and worry about getting. That is the ego's central message. Use your body for glory, for attack. But the spirit has a very different way, and that's why the course is so practical, because we can truly live in such a way that our everyday life becomes a teaching tool to change the mind. And this way of living is a way of following the guidance. Another way of saying it is to say that it's a way of following the plan that God has set up for us. So what is God's plan? We don't know in form. We know that God's plan is for us to remember and to go back to this perfect peace and joy. That is the plan. But how do we achieve that in form? We have no idea. So we have to rely on someone who knows. We have to rely on the spirit that is beyond time and space, that can say, I can guide you throughout time and space to get back to this place of remembrance. So in a way, this guidance seems to be informed, but truly it is not. It's not about whether you turn left or right. It is a choice in mind, like what voice are you listening to is everything. When we make that choice to say, in this very moment, I choose to listen to this quiet, still voice, and not the ego who tells me that you need to accumulate more, you need to get more approval, you need to compete, attack. If you really step out of that and just listen, that decision alone is the way back.
Right.
So to listen to guidance truly is coming from that sincere desire, and the form becomes obvious in the moment. It's actually pretty obvious in the moment when you make up your mind to listen to that voice. And in terms of form, it's very, very individualized, and it's also very, very spontaneous. You can never say, if I follow the spirit, it should look this way. Like you said, just the example you just had, I should never rely on alarm, or I should have this, I only hear it from within. You just can't make that kind of conclusion. But that, God's voice speak to me all throughout the day if I choose to listen.
Right.
And our part, which is choosing to listen, is everything. It's really everything.
It's beautiful. That's like our little part to play. It's like, I think I heard you say recently, actually, I laughed. I don't know, it was a talk, so like almost something like, what's the word we want? It's like, we almost find it insulting how small our part is. Like, if I was just willing just to say, show me, you know, like if I was really just so willing to surrender and say, I don't know the way, show me. And rather than, oh, but let me add my idea here, or the, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, you know, sometimes I was thinking, if we don't wake up in the morning thinking we already know everything about our life and this day, if we don't wake up thinking I already know, I'm
Right.
early or late, I have this appointment in the morning, I have this lunch plan, and I have this dinner. If I don't know any of it, you know, then this day becomes a blank slate that serves the purpose of listening to another voice. But it's this I know mind that we don't even realize that's what's operating in the background, you know.
Wow. Something you said there reminded me of that lovely idea of just when I meet someone, like, you know, can I meet someone, even if it's someone I'm meeting for the first time, or it's my mother, or it's someone I've known for, you know, can I meet them fresh? Can I meet them and not, oh, I know this, oh, I know their background, I know this, I know their personality, you know, like, it's like all this stuff's filled before I've got all this in the way of even just joining. Oh, I know who this person is. Oh, they're going to ask me for something, or they're going to complain, you know. Can I just come like fresh and meet this one without my agenda or without my projections, that without the past that I'm putting on them?
Yeah, and I think it is it's possibility if we genuinely have experienced that we're so wrong about things we know. Without that kind of experience, it's hard to truly put aside, oh, mom is just like this. You know, they say a sentence, you're already like, yeah, you roll your eyes already because it's so much behind that sentence.
I think I'm going to hang up now because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I know where this is going. Like, bye.
Yeah.
It was like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. Oh. Oh, wow. I just like, wow. So lesson 50 says, I am sustained by the love of God. And the first sentence, wow, here is the answer to every problem that will confront you today and tomorrow and throughout time. Just that first sentence. Here is the answer. I am sustained by the love of God. Here's the answer to every problem. I feel like this kind of thing, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Again, how to use this in a practical way, and how possibly at times I might misuse a beautiful idea like this, right? Like, so I am sustained by the love of God. He's telling us, like he's telling us the truth. In truth, I'm sustained by the love of God. And yet, often when I hear this thought or when I read this thought, I feel like it's almost like just this one thought seems to invite everything that's not that into my, like, this almost like it invites all these, oh, that's not, you don't believe that. What did you do yesterday? You checked your insurance, or I don't know, like you checked your bank account 3 times last week, or, just see, I guess that, can you just, because I feel like somewhere that if that's what's happening in my mind, then that's almost like that's helpful in a way. I think where I'm going with this actually is that there's times maybe when I might actually be fearful or even despairing around looking at it as like, someone's like, oh yeah, but what about all the things that, I'm not living this so far. They're just words. Then, this kind of thing. Like, so, and yet, surely, any genuine willingness to just sit with that idea for a moment would be helpful. It's like the attack thoughts that seem to come in quite often around that I'm not measuring up, or, well, I've been doing the course for 20 years and I never had a breakthrough with this lesson, or yeah, it feels nice for 7 minutes, and then, okay, back to my normal, whatever, existence. Or any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's very much tied back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this interview. There is no fear, because I feel like I talked about the kind of thinking that sponsors the fear. They have been sitting there covered up while we're busy every day to solve problems, financial problems, work, get more money so that we can hopefully taste freedom. And then, okay, when we financially are okay now, our body breaks down. So keep solving problems so that one day we can feel, okay, we have a healthy body actually to taste freedom. Mm. Then the body continues to break down, or we found maybe the body's okay, but we don't have good relationships. We're not loved. Our lives is filled with conflict. It's just like, but what is sponsoring all this never-ending problem? I think at some point in my life, I reached a point I totally know that experience when we have a urgent problem in front. For example, our bank account just dropped to a point where we can't go to the place we really need to go, or we have this dominant, overwhelming body symptom. All that our mind wants to do is just get rid of this problem now. I don't really care about anything else. I just want to solve this problem. But I feel like for me, there was some points in my life I just reached that I thought it's just not good enough to solve this problem. What about tomorrow? What about next year? It's going to come back, and I already know it. If it is not this, it's that. It's when is the end? I truly felt I lost all the motivation to keep solving problems.
Right.
And I thought, what is that I'm looking for? I'm looking for a state of mind that feels problems free. That's really what I'm looking for. And this pathway, is that really working? The problems never ends. And even with health or something, I just know that even if I have absolutely no problem in my body today, I have a perfect, healthy body, I know it's not going to be the case in 10 years' time. It's just not. So I suddenly started to realize when is
Wow.
this going to end? Am I fooling myself here?
Wow.
What is that I'm looking for? So I feel for me, there was a true stepping out in my mind. At least I kind of stopped and thinking, I'm going to step out of it all. And it feels extremely risky at the time, because almost like, oh, you're not going to solve your problem now? Are you kidding? The ego is like loud. You have control. Do this. Have better diet. Do exercise. Have the medication, or do something about yourself in life. Then you feel better, you know. But I just thought, I don't know, something doesn't satisfy me to do that. So I was thinking of the same thing, like Jesus doesn't just leave us there to say, this problem is in your mind, but Jesus always teaches, do that, do only that, as a positive instruction, something you
Right.
can do. So what is this positive instruction?
Right.
It's trusting the love of God is something that sustains us. And what does that even mean? To me, it's actually to mean that I am going to pray to God with every single problem that I have. I'm not gonna attempt to solve them based on my knowledge or based on the world. You know, you Google, then there's like 10 pages of what to do with any problems. No, I thought I'm not going to rely on the teachings of this world. I'm just going to rely on prayer. And what does that mean that I'm sustained by the love of God? I associate the love of God with forgiveness, because that is as close as I can taste the love of God in this world is through forgiveness. I can't really try to say, let me love as God loves. I know that the pathway is laid directly and clearly. Forgive. Every opportunity is laying in front of you. That's how you approach God, the love of God. So to me, that lesson 50 is forgiveness offers you everything. It's the same as some later lessons, you know, it's not different. It's actually even so practical as to say that forgiveness offers you abundance, offers you absolutely everything that you will need in this world: friendship, love, relationship, health. It is all through this state of mind that you can tap into right here, right now. Because if you let go of this problem of the self-attack of this identity, then you will not perceive a world that filled with sickness and death, that fills with lack. So we just have to give it a chance. We have to give it a chance to approach the so-called real problem in another way. That's what I think.
Thank you.
And it is truly my experience. You know, I did not know that you could live without having to exchange in a way to do things you don't really believe, so-called work. I used to work in financial industry or something. I didn't really feel the passion with that. but it's almost like you have to in order to exchange for some kind of freedom. It's like I'm a slave to the system to exchange. But right now, I guess I have to say that, yeah, it's not really about getting anything to survive. Why do we want a healthy body? What is that for? If we have all the freedom and the joy and health, what then? It is, so it's not like about anything that we can get anymore. It's more like what do you want to use it for? Then it becomes obvious. I feel we want to extend love, we want to extend forgiveness, we want to extend this true healthfulness. Yeah, once I switched to that, like, okay, I really don't need anything. And I don't need to wait for the future to taste that freedom, because I can forgive right now and I can extend that to anybody. Then suddenly I feel like this, I feel abundant. I feel I'm filled with the richness and the love of God that I can give. Then in that state of mind, you just really don't perceive problems, or you are not afraid if problems arise. You know where to go.
Right. It's like, I think there's something I heard you say recently too, and I've heard David say this too, of like, it's like there's this new attitude or something where it's almost like nothing specific. Tell me what your thoughts are around this, but it's kind of like this idea of like, things are no longer even perceived as a problem. It's almost like if something comes in that, I don't know, let's just say the example, like, you go to the airport and you hear an announcement that the flight that you're going to be on has been cancelled, rather than, oh, what do we get? It's almost like I get the sense from you, and I heard David say, it's like, oh, wow, I wonder what miracles are going to happen now. Like that state of mind, that attitude, rather than, oh, God, that's going to cost me money. As if there's this automatic pilot thing of like something's gone wrong here.
Yeah, and I think that is truly, I feel, is what the Course wants to teach us, that giving and receiving are the same. Like, it's in giving that we receive. And when I feel like I really tasted the truth of that, which is a universal law, then you don't really do anything to get anything. You go places and do things in order to give. So what can you lose? What is there to worry you? You can always give, even if your plan get canceled, even if your plan get changed. Nothing is deprived you of the opportunity for you to give. And in that, you become happy. So you are never deprived of the opportunity to become happy.
Wow. So it's impossible to be deprived of an opportunity to be happy.
It is impossible. It's only the wrong direction of thinking, that we deprive ourselves because we think we need to get more.
Yes.
And that very thinking makes us perceive we're lacking,
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Francis, for your time. I just feel really blessed, actually, to join with you. And yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Colin.